Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome to Moneycontrol. I'm Karunya Rao and with me is the person who tracks commodities for all of us, Manisha Gupta. And today we put the spotlight on base metals and gold. I want to start with gold. Of course, we know why demand in the domestic market is firm. It's the season, the record number of shadis happening. But overall, how are things looking technically and fundamentally for gold?
It's a good weekly gain this time around, and we may be 0.5% up in case of gold, but we've done better than various other asset classes, and we are up by nearly 8% for the month of November, and that is because there's a strong buying, as you said, in the Indian markets, but internationally as well. The kind of sell-off that we continue to see from institutions seems to be coming back now. So all the short positions that they were creating, they seem to be winding that out. There is still a lot of uncertainty, and the markets do believe that with the next month, which is going to be the last US Fed meeting, their interest rate hike is not going to be so much.
I was hoping.
Yes. And the dollar index, I mean, look at that. In the month of November, we've come down from a high of 113 to below 106 now. That itself is a huge impetus. And all the reports that I have been reading on dollar index suggest that 104 is incoming. I think that is what the market is also reading, and there is buying coming back in gold.
But does it always happen when the dollar index sort of retreats, gold does well, or is it a trend that we're seeing now only?
So not always that dollar index plays such a big part, but a lot of reports that I have been reading suggest that the kind of movement that we have seen in metals, nearly 60% of that has come in because of the movement in dollar, which is really on the higher side. So it's more than fundamentals, it's more than macros. Dollar really seems to be moving commodities right now.
Well, I'm sure you are having a field day and you're having your I told you so moment.
Yes.
But even after this 8% uptick, are you still optimistic that this will climb up further?
So there's just so much happening in the market. There's a war, there's a recession, there's a slowdown, there is China giving out stimulus.
So the box is ticked.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff happening. But I would still count on dollar index, and if it actually is going to 104 and below, and we actually are looking at a 50 basis point of a rate hike going forward, then yes, I am putting my money on gold. If 1750 holds where we are trading right now, then we're looking at 1780, 1800 on the higher side. We could be closing this year on the higher side if things stay as they are.
Oh wow, well you could put your money on gold too, like Manisha is doing. But what about base metals, because they also are looking quite firm?
Yes, and within the base metal prices, it is copper that really seems to be doing quite well. I've been reading Macquarie, Citi,
Anything
Goldman Sachs
that's remotely yellow is doing well.
You could say that, yes, and that's exactly what the global brokerages seem to be putting money on as well. Goldman Sachs says that by mid 2023, the commodities will start to come back, because by then this rate hike cycle would have ended, and yes, they are putting their money, and they think that these are good accumulation levels for many of those commodities. Within metals as well, copper is one where we are looking at strong Chinese consumption. The on-ground numbers for this year have already come in, and when you look at the global demand, EV demand, construction, all of those numbers are on the positive side. Also, when you look at the demand, and this is a Trafigura report which says that it's not just China. If you look at the EV demand, that from US and European Union will also start picking up. So China is not going to be the major market forever.
So if we're riding heavily on EVs and how demand is coming from across the globe, shouldn't one also look at nickel or aluminum?
Yes, those are the second and third in the list, by the way. And with the fact that China is giving out a stimulus in real estate and infra projects, that's another positive that the metals are taking with both hands. So the fundamentals in any case have been on the higher side, but with China now pushing it with stimulus, wanting the growth to come back even as the COVID cases are increasing, I think China is going to be a wild card. If things start turning around for China, you will feel or you will see a good growth.
China could actually be a game changer for all of these metals, commodities, because it is after all the biggest consumer for most of these things. Okay, well, so copper is something you can also consider, given that analysts and even our own analyst is also betting big on the future prospects, followed by a nickel and aluminium. So that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend.